of all generations, Mr. Bruce Gilbert, class of 1971. At the conclusion of my reading of Bruce's induction plaque, I will ask him to come forward and we will do a live interview here on stage. Bruce Gilbert came to Baker University in the fall of 1967, graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Business in 1971. While at Baker, Gilbert excelled in both track and cross country for 4 years. As a sophomore, he was named to the KCAC All-Conference Cross Country Team. In the same year, he traveled to Boston, Massachusetts, along with 2 other Baker University freshmen, where he represented Baker in the 73rd annual running of the Boston Marathon, finishing 151st out of all those runners with a time of 3 hours, 43 seconds. Over the course of the next 50 years, Bruce went on to compete in 79 marathons and 5 ultramarathons. Destinations for these events included New York City, Los Angeles, Houston, Seattle, Winnipeg, Barcelona, and his own hometown of Indianapolis, making him truly a cross-country runner. He has also run the Kansas City Marathon 20 times and the Hospital Hill Half Marathon in Kansas City 43 times. In April of 2019, Gilbert wore a Baker track jersey once again as he competed in his 8th Boston Marathon, 50 years after his first race. Along with participating in athletics, Bruce also served as sophomore class president, interfraternity council president, was the Zeta Chi fraternity treasurer and president. In 1978, Gilbert earned a Master of Liberal Arts degree from Baker's postgraduate program in Kansas City. Since his time at Baker, he's worked as an owner of a manufacturer's rep sales agency. For the past 21 years, he has been the CFO of a national award-winning design and remodeling firm known as Regarding Kitchens, which he co-owns with his wife, Beverly. Between them, Bruce and Beverly have 5 children and 8 grandchildren. Please join me here on stage, Bruce. Well, as I said to Mike Berg in our interview, I got to see virtually all of his games, and it's a great personal thrill for me as well to be here with you as we were on campus together for 3 years, and I also got to see you from the press box running at Baker, so it gives me a great thrill to do that. First thing I want to do, Bruce, is I want to go back and find out the psyche of that long-distance runner. Where did that begin? How long ago? At what point did you decide that this is something I really enjoy?
Well, that's a tough question. That must go way, way back. That goes back as long as I can remember. Since I could walk, I probably ran too, anytime I could. And in school, I'd run. When we had recess, I'd be running somewhere. Probably one memory was 6th grade. My PE teacher saw us running around the football field for PE. We didn't have a track at all, so we had pretend track around the football field. And he called me over and said, "You've got a pretty nice stride." He said, "I think you'd be good in long distance, like the quarter mile." My eyes got huge. I thought, wow, I can do the quarter mile. He thinks I can do that. I'll try to do it. So next year in track in 7th grade, we had the half mile. So I thought this is getting even better. And anyway, so all through junior high, high school, I'd run whatever the longest event was, which in high school was 2 miles, and only boys run track or cross country then. But anyway, so we ran the 2 mile, and but I was always interested in running and the longest distances that I could think about or would hear about.
We're just going to share this microphone because I think it may be a little bit louder and hopefully everyone can hear. Okay, so that was when you started to get that love of running. Now, you were from Indianapolis, Indiana.
Baker probably didn't recruit a lot there during those days of the 1960s, but I want to ask you, how was it that you actually made it to Baker University?
Okay, so true, I had not heard of Baker University, but all the way back in 3rd grade, a new family moved into town, the Doty family, and their son David was my same age. We were in always church activities, school, and most of our other activities. We were together in some fashion or another from 3rd grade on. So still hadn't heard of Baker, but he was my buddy, and let's see, our junior year in high school, we found out the Doties were going to move to Kansas, and this was pretty sad news to lose my buddy that way. So why are they moving here? Well, Dr. Doty was becoming president of Baker University the next year, which will be our senior year. So that was great for them, sad for us. So David and I worked out where he could stay in Indiana another year in our house and continue at Pike High School and finish up where we were there and do that so he wouldn't be having to do a new school for his last year of high school. So that was great for our family. We got to have, I got another brother out of that, basically. So we then had heard of Baker. We came out in October, our senior year, came out for a visit to the university to check it out, and actually stayed in the Dell House and went to the chicken fry, and they set us up with some sweet Zeta pledges. So this was pretty great. We got our jeans branded with the D-Taw-D. So anyway, that was a great experience. So then I was thinking about Baker quite a bit. David was for sure coming to Baker. And anyway, I was interested in it. We came back in February then, I think it was senior weekend. And that time I stayed in the Zeta Chi house. They had, it was about 20 degrees out, so we slept on the sleeping porch unheated. Nobody out there. Froze all night long. But anyway, we still thought that was a pretty great time. And around then I found out they might invite me to come and run on their track and cross country team. So that pretty well sealed the deal. And that fall then, David and I both came to Baker as freshmen, so we continued our friendship and were classmates then from 3rd grade all through college.
Having run both track and field and cross country, 2 different seasons, 2 different sports, really, I want you to go back and think, was there one particular meet that stood out in your memory?
So one week during the track season, we had a pretty heavy class load right then, and a big paper due on Friday. Had to be turned in on Friday. I think I did 2 all-nighters that week, which isn't recommended. Got one night's sleep in between the 2 all-nighters. Turned the paper in at 9:30 Friday morning. That afternoon we had the William Jewell relays in Liberty, so that was exciting. So we went up there, and I've been awake a long time, but anyway, I could run the mile and the 3 mile in those meets, and somehow with adrenaline ran probably my fastest time that season in the mile and the 3 miles. So anyway, it was memorable for maybe not quite the right reasons.
Well, as a sophomore, you left Baldwin City in the safety of the Kansas community and traveled all the way east to Boston, Massachusetts for the running of the Boston Marathon. Try to put yourself back at that starting line among all the hundreds, if not thousands, of runners. Try to describe your emotions and feelings about that ominous event just before you.
Probably terrified, excited, mostly excited, or equal amounts of both. So we hadn't done anything like this before, but we had gotten class credit at Baker in the interterm for training. At that time, you could create your own class in January for your interterm. Maybe they still do. And so we thought that'd be really smart to have the Boston Marathon be our course and get class credit. And so we did that under Coach James Irick. He was our professor. He had made us go to the library, though, too, which was wasn't in my plan. I thought we'd just train. We're going to train all the time, write a journal of what we do, and then go run that marathon and get our grades. So anyway, it all worked out fine. So nothing more exciting than lining up there in Boston and running with people from all over the world and all ages of people. So.
You've run so many marathons, half marathons, as we heard in the earlier description. What are your plans? Have you actually thought ahead of how many more of these might you want to do, or where does your running career go from this point?
Probably keep it up, keep going, and maybe the distance and the speed are a little bit less important. Mile markers have gotten a little farther apart, so maybe there might not be as many miles, but I think it's important to keep going and keep doing it, and it keeps me motivated and hopefully motivates other people too.
At this point, I'd like for you to take the microphone and just do a couple of minutes on your own of whatever thoughts and feelings that you would like to relay to those here in the audience this evening.
Okay, I did want, so that Boston connection went farther. So the Doty family that moved to Indianapolis had moved from Boston, where Dr. Doty had been a pastor there. So then now he's a baker, and we're going to run the marathon. And none of us really had any money. He got us housing with Baker alums in Boston that he had met as when he was a pastor back then. And they took us around, and he even provided a little scholarship for us to help defray our costs, which I think came out of his own pocket, because he really wanted us to get to go. And so just another little side story on that. And then it was so exciting to go back this year and run in the Baker jersey again, and it just brought back all those memories. So that was great. But anyway, I'd like to thank my wife, Bev. My sons are here. My fraternity buddies here from Baker, and Dale Lake, who I think is partly at fault for this, and other Hall of Famers here that I went to school with, and my gym and conditioning coach, Mansfield, calculus, attempting to teach me calculus, Mr. Courtney. And anyway, appreciate it. And I think that my whole start was from that 6th grade teacher thinking I could do something, and I did it. So that reminds me to always encourage other people and let people know you believe in them, and maybe they'll do something crazy themselves.
Congratulations. Please, while the plaque is being presented, I would invite the members of Bruce's family, his friends, classmates, anyone that ran with him at any time, please stand and also be recognized.